Hi gang. So at the end of the year, a lot of us tend to look back on what we managed to get done throughout the previous 12 months. Last year, I started a hobby Instagram so that I could post all the models I completed in 2020. I was at home for most of 2020, so, that was quite a lot of models. But while I was busy posting my progress on Instagram, a different sort of post was sweeping through my local club's forums. Andy Oval, one of the great hosts of the Hobby Support Group podcast, link in the thing, posted his list of what he was planning to do in 2021 in the form of one of those grid things you see everywhere at Christmas time. A New Year's resolution in hobby form, a rough plan for the year. And well, we were all bored at home, so we all started doing them. We called them Ovelists after Andy, and here's mine. Yeah, restrained, right? Only 6 boxes. I mean, a lot of people were doing 9 or 12 or 15. I went for 6. I was being sensible because I was expecting 2021 to be busier with work. Turns out it was quite a lot busier with this. Anyway, by January, I'd mostly forgotten about it until a couple of weeks ago anyway. So in this video, I'm going to go through what, if any, of this I managed to complete, what I did instead, and which of them I did in a massive panic rush in the last 2 weeks. Okay, only 6 boxes, but the silly names are my idea, so let's explain them. First up, squats. Right, I thought this would be an easy one. At Christmas 2020, I'd started painting a little bunch of squats using contrast paints with none of my usual batch painting techniques. I thought this way there might be a good little slow grow army where I could tackle a squad or 2 at a time, or take a little box away with me when I travel for work. I've got a whole army of them, and the idea was to just slowly work through it. How did I do? Well, this time last year I had about 15 painted. Now I've got this many. There we go, around 60 infantry models finished and based, mostly regular squats and a few gunners for thud guns, which I haven't done, and then about 15 painted but not yet based. I need to make myself some more resin slotter bases. So that's okay progress, but it's not what I planned to do. The intention was just to do this lot at the start of the year and then carry on through with exo squats or bikers and vehicles, even some artillery for these lonely guys, but none of that got done. So, what do I put on the list? Did I do some squats? Yes. Do I have an army yet? No. I've broken the back of the infantry, but that project is not finished. So I'm giving that a maybe. Next up, police in space. So I've had an Adeptus Arbiters army for years, and they've gone through a couple of repaints, but in 2020 I did a few test squads and vehicles in a new paint scheme, and I wanted to strip all my models and update them to this new scheme. The impetus for this was an event called the Silent War, a yearly narrative campaign event run by Ben at Amaze Gaming, where my arbitrators were regular fixtures, so I wanted to get enough repainted to field an army for that event, about 1,500 points. Did I do it? Well, here they are. So this time last year I had about 20 painted, and now I've got about 60 plus odds and ends. That's 6 squads, a commander, and a selection of heavy and special weapons. Now, when I say I painted these this year, what I really did is all the base coats in January and then forgot about them until 2 weeks ago, and then spent a few nights frantically trying to finish them off and base them. Like the squats, this means that all the basic infantry are done, but also like the squats, this isn't the full army. No shield guys, no repaint of the vehicles. Now, there's a reason for that. The Silent War campaign didn't actually happen, so I guess I lost my impetus and had no deadline anymore. And I could still field it. As I said, I'd already painted some bits and bobs in the previous year, so this would work as an army. But in terms of crossing the army off the list as done, it's another maybe. Okay, hat soldiers. So I had a load of spare parts lying around from various aborted conversion projects, some heads with berets from a few different manufacturers, some anvil void armor torsos, some max mini legs, and I thought, you know what, I'd use all these up? A little Tempestus Scions platoon, just like 20-25 models, use up all the bits, give myself a handy little force I can use for something. And with this project, that's exactly what I did. Here's the platoon. 4 squads and a command squad, all done with converted special weapons from a variety of ranges. Unqualified success, right? Well, to be honest, I'm not that happy with them. I tried doing dark skin tones, as it's not something I've ever tried much before, and I'm not sure it turned out that well. I should have realised that the idea to use black contrast over a yellow undercoat was a bit silly. With that and the oil wash afterwards, they just look a lot messier than I want. Look, I'm glad they're done. They're in a box now. They're usable, but I'm not that pleased with the result. Oh, and these were definitely another last-minute finish. I painted them all in spring, lost interest, and then finished all the basing a week ago. So they are done. That's the box that's done. Tick that box, they're done. Fourth on the list, metal monsters. Right, so I've got a really big Chaos Marine army, but currently, apart from a few dreadnoughts, it doesn't have any demon engines. I also have loads of spare parts for like demon engines and vehicles and walkers. The plan was to do a big batch of completely converted demon engines. A really nice conversion project full of weird and wonderful metal monsters. Did I get it done? Did I? Hell, I just never got around to it. They're sitting there in the same box. No excuses, really. This was always going to be one of those projects that would take over my whole gaming room for a while, and yeah, I just never started on it. I still do want to do these, and I was tempted to try and get them done in a rush before New Year, but yeah, I didn't. Good contenders for next year's list, though. And continuing my run of things I didn't quite finish, Crab Ladies. Okay, this one's a bit complex. So this refers to Slaanesh Demons, which I used to have an army of back in the early 2000s. Back then it was made up of a first edition Keeper of Secrets and some first edition Fiends, and then a mix of Demonettes and Seekers from all editions of the game, except the horrible new plastic ones. But eventually I outgrew the paint scheme, and I also didn't like the mix and match nature of the models, so I stripped them, got rid of the second edition Clory ones on eBay, and swapped them all out for Juan Diaz versions, the really nice ones from 2000. And then they've just sat in a box of bits ever since. A few years later, I got a big box of 90s demons from a friend, and since then I've painted up all the Tzeentch ones, all mid-90s models with an 80s greater demon, and all the Nurgle ones, all early 2000s models with an 80s greater demon, and finally this year, for the Tale of Four Gamers, I did all the Khorne ones, again all 90s models with an 80s greater demon. But the Slaanesh ones have so far stayed in the box, which is weird because Slaanesh Marines were always my favourite ones, and when I got them out a few weeks ago to try and score an easy tick by doing, say, a Warcry list, I kind of realised why. I'm just not sure what models I want anymore. I want an army that's reasonably consistent era-wise, and it has to include an 80s greater demon to match the others. But even though I swapped most of these for Diaz models, the rest of them are still a bit of a mix. I have 9 of these first edition 80s Fiends, and then loads of 2000 Demonettes. And while the 2000s Demonettes are widely considered to be some of the best models Games Workshop ever produced, they're so tiny and yet dynamic and delicate, but... and maybe I'm just getting old here, but they feel weirdly dated now. Like, Games Workshop have done such a good job with Slaanesh recently. Slaanesh was always let down a bit by being the god of pride and excess, but all the models just being sexy ladies. And the new Age of Sigmar range has really tapped into other sorts of excess and gone further than just demon girls in chainmail bikinis. These are brilliant models, but they're also just naked girls. That's it. Is there really much difference between these and these? Do I really want to be the guy of the army of naked anime girls? I don't know, they're really nice models, but something about them nowadays just makes me go, ugh, old Warhammer. So what do? Here's the 3 releases of Metal Slaanesh Demons before the plastic stuff started. There were Keepers, Fiends, Demonettes, and Steeds of Slaanesh in all 3. I have 24 Seekers and 50 Demonettes from the 2000s, and then 9 Fiends and 2 Keepers from the 80s. If I want consistency, I'd either sell the Diaz models from the 2000s and try and buy all first edition models. That's consistent, but really difficult and expensive. I've only seen a couple of these Slaanesh riding beasts before, and they came with Renegade riders, so I'd have to convert some Demonettes to ride them. That's a lot of trawling eBay for what would be a much smaller army. Or I could sell the Diaz models and the 80s Fiends and try and buy all 90s models, Demonettes, Fiends, and Seekers. Fiends here are pretty easy to find on eBay and not that expensive, but the Demonettes and Seekers are a bit more difficult and you'd need a lot for an army. Potentially it's an even bigger job, but it would fit with my Tzeentch and Khorne armies. Or finally, I could sell the Rogue Trader Fiends, they are absolute nightmares to put together, and buy the Metal 2000s ones, and then just use my old Keeper of Secrets. I mean, that's what I do with my Nurgle army, full 2000s arm with an old Greater Demon. I'm not a massive fan of the 2000s Fiends, and I'd still be the guy playing the cheesy naked girl army, but they are nice models. Anyway, I'm not sure what to do. Ideas in the comments? For now, they're a no, I did not get them done. And finally, Space Trenches. This was a terrain making project I undertook just before COVID hit for my club. I was painting a whole battlefield of them. At the end, I got half of them painted, but then the whole lot went into the loft for storage over lockdown, and it only came down again for this video. So no, I didn't do that. Should probably just drop them back to the club, but I really wanted to finish painting it first. Update, in the Christmas holidays, I literally just spent one evening finishing these off, so they are done. They're done. So there we are. I mean, it's not like I didn't get anything done. The back is broken on the arbitrators and the squat armies. It's all just cool stuff to paint now. And I also painted plenty of other things. A full 5th edition Warhammer Fantasy army made of Khorne demons, plus an even bigger Age of Sigmar army of the same era models, plus a whole detachment of Khorne berserkers to go with them. I also started and finished all the infantry for a pretty big Mark IV resin Red Scorpions army for the Badab campaign we'll definitely do one day, plus the odd fun model here and there. So lots done, just not the things on the list. Is it even good to have a list like this? I mean, I like making New Year's resolutions, maybe I just need to be more realistic about them. Andy and the gang go into this in a lot more detail in the current episode of Hobby Support Group, so have a listen. And with that admission over, let's look at my Ovelist for 2022. Yep. 9 squares. Right, this list is influenced by 2 things. 1, the desire to shrink my pile of unpainted models and get stuff painted and in KR cases as quickly as possible. And 2, to get odds and ends finished that would complete an army so that I can make more army showcase videos for this channel. So, what we got? First up, Metal Monsters is still there. Yep, I want to make an army showcase about the Chaos Marines because it's a really big, really nice army, and getting these guys done means I can do that. Next up, an easy one, rebase the Tiger Claws. They just need a few touch-ups to be a full army. It's a project for like a couple of evenings at most. Then Beastmen. This is a small project. I've got a couple of squads of old 90s Beastmen to go with my 90s Slaves to Darkness, and some Blackstone ones who are going to be Zangors in my Thousand Suns because I don't like the bird guys. And they're all assembled and base-coated, so completing them should be pretty quick. Right, the center line is all vehicles. First, police cars. Get the vehicles done for the Adeptus Arbites army. I'm assuming there is a Silent War this year, so that'd be nice. Get the vehicles done for my Red Scorpions. Again, completes an army in one big batch. And then get a load of vehicles done for my Renegades and Heretics. Another colossal army that right now is taking up lots of space with unbuilt kits. All of these are space-making projects to stop there being so many boxes lying around my hobby room. It's a lot of tanks, but then tanks are much faster to paint than guys, and I enjoy it more. Anyway, I spent all this year painting infantry. Finally, I have 3 new projects that are quite interesting. White Scars, I just want to do something with my pile of Heresy White Scars stuff. It might be heavily dependent on what Horus Heresy does this year. Next, Classic Fantasy. I want to paint a small, square-based army of like generic fantasy models, goblins or orcs or something that can be used for multiple different games. And finally, Battle Masters. Battle Masters is an old 90s Games Workshop Milton Bradley game, a bit like Hero Quest and Space Crusade. And I had this idea at the start of lockdown to do a club set by sending stands of models out to all the different people in the club, and they'd all paint them, send them back, I'd base them, put their names on the front. It'd be great. And I've got most of them back painted now, I just haven't got to the point of assembling them and making the set, so that's on the list. And as well as those 9, I'm sure there'll be other bits and bobs. I'm still keeping the squats around. They're just not going on the list because I'm not going to try and complete the army in 2022. But there we go. That's my 2021 and my plan for 2022. I'll post my Ovelist on Twitter. If you want to join in, please do. The boxes can be anything you want. There don't have to be 9 of them. Each box can be a single miniature if you want. It's just a nice way of planning out what you intend to get done for the year. And as I've said a couple of times, I'll link to the man himself and his podcast below. Thanks for watching. Good luck in 2022. If you'd like to see more stuff about old models, old games, and old people playing them, click all the usual buttons. And if you'd like to start your year charitably, I've got a very simple Patreon at the link below. See ya.